And
That's very interesting, because one of the things that's kind of becoming clear to me here is that there seem to be a lot of assumptions that are generally being made and generally accepted that sound to be, shall we say, highly suspicious.
perception, yeah. We've had people that they're injecting H2S not a half mile away, and their perception is that the well that they're drilling over here is perfectly safe.
Well, I learned a long time ago, don't take any chances with H2S.
Right.
Jim, if I might, what are your thoughts about some of the, I guess I might call them pet peeves or pet issues with some of the commonly apparently generally accepted assumptions that we find in practice?
I think one of the there's probably different levels of them, but the generic one, and I'll pick on geology, is that it's homogeneous. Mother Nature lays things down consistently. We leave the room here and could drive away, and for as far as you can see, it looks pretty similar. It's not that 6, 10, 20 feet underground, let alone a couple thousand feet underground. And we make the assumption that just because we're 5 wells in, that we haven't had a problem. We might have fluked out in those 5 wells, and something's a little bit different in number 6, and that's the one that bites us. In my experience, usually what you spend fixing well number 6 that cost is more than what you saved on the first 4 or 5 wells on that pad. It never ends up being cheaper. It always ends up being more expensive, in my opinion. So that's number one assumption. And that gets really back to the manufactured drilling.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest role in my company is treating every well separately and paying attention to every well so that we don't have a problem on any wells. I don't want to have 5%. I don't want to reduce my problem wells to 1 or 2 or 3%. I want them to 0, right? And not have problems. And that's number one, is treat every well separately. So get rid of the manufactured drilling model. So that's the big picture. When you go smaller and smaller into it, it gets down to very much, we make assumptions on crew capabilities and driller capabilities. We pay for this fantastic level 3 rig that's AC rig, top to bottom, 7,500 PSI. It's this great thing. And we assume that the driller on that rig, in control of it, is rested, in good shape, has been well trained, has good leadership, didn't have a bad day yesterday, and all these things. And we just, because we're paying the big dollar for the big rig, we just assume it's going to perform. We don't give him tools, right, to look at things and to help him. This system, this is where I would like to see the system go, is that it's right at the driller's screen, right? And whether he had a good day or a bad day yesterday, whether he had a good sleep last night or not, whether he had well-controlled training within the last 3 weeks, all of a sudden there's an alarm in front of him, there's a watch in front of him. Hey, something's going on different in this well. We give him the tools to make a change right then and there. That's sort of both extremes that I would say that where I'd like to see us go.
So my pet peeve, and let me answer that question and then throw it back at Jim, is the culture in the industry, any way you define it, in simplicity has a need for speed. And I think we can prove that that's false economics. How do we change that culture? How do we begin to address the real important high-level issues like process safety, like the fact that, the industry can only stand so many of these blowouts before a public license is really brought into bear and question, if it's not already. How do we move the needle on the existing culture?
Changing culture is really different, difficult, right?
Yes.
The simple thing is you do it one person at a time. Right? I think moving from how fast can we drill to how efficiently we can drill. That's the conversation that I have with my people in the drilling crews I work with. And it's, one rig at a time, one drill at a time, one well site supervisor at a time is how you do it. But where I'm trying to move the needle is moving to an efficient operation. Efficient operations don't hurt people. They don't get stuck. They don't have well control incidents. They're not waiting on casing. They're not waiting on loggers. They're not waiting on cementers. Efficient operations. The most efficient you get, if you look at it, this is the old best composite well theory, but it's taken to the entire operation, not just the well bore. We're looking at the entire well site operation, and keeping the hole you drill would be number one. That's what we used to talk about, but now it's just simply how efficient can the whole operation be?
Isn't what we're really looking for is a reliable operation? One that is both efficient and sustainable.
You can't have an unsustainable operation still be efficient. The word
True.
efficient just cleans it all up. It's easy. It's a single one word. Unreliable operations are not efficient.
True.
Right? They're mutually exclusive. You cannot have an unreliable operation be efficient. You can be lucky, but that's not going to add up in the long run.
That's not a good strategy.
Yeah, I don't.
An efficient operation though comes down to three things: the right people, the right plant, and the right tools.
Absolutely.
That's the only three things you have to have.
I go back a few years back when
The rig leadership.
the drilling optimization was the big deal. We're gonna reduce the number of days you
Yep.
drill. And we did a lot of that with my former employer. And it's good stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. The only problem is we had a customer that I was a close friend with, a geologist, and he said, yeah, you saved us $150,000 in drilling. But we drilled out of the pay zone and we lost $1 million in reserves.
Yeah.
In producible reserves.
So
And I
let's,
actually gave that told it to the engineers at our group, and they looked at me like, but we drilled it in 5 days less. And it's changing that one person at a time, that culture you're talking about.
I've got offset competitors. I've watched them drill a 1.5 mile lateral, and 2/3 of it isn't in the zone. The well comes on, and it's not a good well. They drilled a cheap well.
Yeah.
But they don't have anywhere near the reserves they expected,
Exactly.
and they now can't get
But the
those.
answer-
So in our favor,
let's